A lot to this all, so I do want to bring in Tre Lovell, a civil trial attorney, to help break it down. Tre, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, so first off, the big question. It did appear that this all was kind of sudden, and nobody expected, I would say, for this to kind of end with, hey, this is all getting thrown out. So break down how we got to this point.
Yeah, so what happened was a lot of this materialized on cross-examination. I mean, the defense was aware of it, but as they were cross-examining the detectives and the crime scene technician, it came out that this evidence, these bullets, had been turned over to the prosecution and to the police by a witness, and claiming that they came from the same batch of ammunition that were led to the rust set. And upon receiving this evidence, which how they followed up, who knows where it would have led? Because one of the pivotal questions in the case has been, how did this live ammo get on set? All of a sudden, these bullets show up. A witness shows up, says, hey, we may have some information on this. Well, rather than following it up, the prosecution hides the evidence. It takes the bullets, puts it in a different file outside of the Rust case, and never tells the defense about it. And so this came out on cross-examination the day before, and then first thing Friday morning, they bring a motion to dismiss, saying once again, following the narrative all along, prosecution is playing games, they're not giving us evidence, and this has irreparably affected our ability to go forward in the trial.
Explain what dismissed with prejudice means. Can Baldwin actually at any point be recharged, retried, or is this just over? This is the end.
This is the end. So when a judge dismisses a case, he or she has a choice: dismiss it with prejudice or dismiss it without prejudice. If a case is dismissed without prejudice, that means you can refile it, you can bring it again. If it's dismissed with prejudice, that means you can't. That means it's over. And since a jury was impaneled and the case began, double jeopardy attached. And so Baldwin cannot be retried on the basis of double jeopardy as well. So this case is over for him.
Do you think, based on what you've seen, your experience, that Baldwin's status as pretty much an A-list celebrity, I would say, people know who he is, did that status play any sort of role in this outcome?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think generally celebrity status often helps with a jury. Jurors are people. We get starstruck and they see a celebrity that they're a fan of or like the movies. It always kind of helps. But in this case, this had nothing to do with the jury. This was legal tactics. This was prosecutorial misconduct. This was withholding of evidence. And breaking the cardinal rule of the prosecution, which is to find the truth. So this really had nothing to do with the jury, and it had nothing to do with Baldwin as a celebrity or not.
What stood out to you overall about the testimony in the case during that 3 days when the testimony was actually happening?
Well, I was impressed with the defense's cross-examination. The prosecution kind of had a cavalier approach to this case in many respects, I thought, and they really had a sloppy investigation. One of the theories of Baldwin's defense was that he was targeted, that the prosecution was not interested about really getting to the truth. They wanted him. And when this evidence of the live ammo, the bullets came forward, and they covered it up and hid it, that kind of supported the narrative, because they were not interested in finding the truth. They were not interested in finding an answer to one of the pivotal questions of the case: how did the live ammo get on set? They didn't care. And that just kind of supports what Baldwin's team was saying. Hey, you didn't want to get to the truth. You're after me. You're after Baldwin.
Does the trial being dismissed with prejudice have any sort of impact on the Armorer's case, that conviction against Hannah Gutierrez-Reed? Is there any potential impact there?
Yes, I believe there is, on a couple fronts. First of all, it was the same prosecutors that prosecuted her, and largely the same evidence. And so, her case is on appeal. So I think that it certainly could affect the appeal. But I think what her lawyer's going to do, they're going to go before this judge and move for a new trial, move for a mistrial based on potential, evidentiary violations as well. So there's a couple things they could do. They could go to this judge and have the case retried, move for a new trial, as well as on appeal, say, hey, there were certain constitutional violations, legal violations, certain grounds to also have the case reversed and tried again.
Could anyone on the prosecution face any sort of charges? I'm talking criminal charges for what happened. Is any of this considered to be an actual crime?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. I mean, prosecutors, you're never immune from criminal responsibility, but prosecutors have a lot of room to make decisions, to conduct themselves, and to not have to face civil or criminal responsibility. However, there certainly could be ethical questions. That's most likely how this will be handled. They're gonna review how the prosecutors acted, and if there is some type of ethical violation, they could handle it through discipline, things like that. That's probably the way they're going to handle it. But I don't think Baldwin has any recourse really against the state. It was just, it was poorly handled. There was certainly intentional violations, it seems. And even the judge had pointed that out. And I think, but those largely rest within the province of ethics, I think, as opposed to actually legal responsibility.
All right, Tre Lovell, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and break it all down. Anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
Just briefly, I think, this is just the wrong time for this to be happening. I think the public has some questionability about the legal system. And the worst thing we could do as a society is not trust our legal system, not trust the way prosecutors are handling cases. And then this just undercuts the narrative for us. Just the one, an attorney, affects me personally. What I do for a living. I want to think that going to a courtroom that we're going to get justice. It's going to be fair. People will believe in the system, and things like this just don't help push that.
Yeah, it's true. Well, thank you again for taking the time to be here with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.